Today we will talk about the cases of teenagers who were brutally deprived of their lives this year. A surprise that turned into 3 stab wounds and a burned body, as well as the brutal murder of a displaced person who was forced to dig his own grave before death. If you can, make yourselves comfortable, dear ones. 'Cause this is terrifying. On a winter morning, a 14-year-old girl from Odessa was walking by the river. She was eagerly waiting for the surprise she had been promised. Following the preparer's instructions, the girl lay on a sheet spread out earlier. She gave permission to have her eyes covered and began to wait for the surprise. At that moment, she had no idea that her surprise would be several fatal stab wounds. On January 6th, around 11 o'clock in the morning, a resident of Izmail went out for a walk with his dog. Walking along the bank of the Danube River near Pridunaiska Street, the man noticed smoke, and when he got closer to its source, he realized that there was a burned human body in front of him. The resident of Izmail immediately contacted the police. Soon after, law enforcement officers filled the scene in response to the call. It was soon established that the victim of this crime was a 14-year-old 9th grade student of Izmail Gymnasium number 8. The names of the girl and others in the case are not being disclosed. However, to make it easier for you to follow the story, I will use pseudonyms for the participants in these events. I rely on open sources for the story's authenticity. Links are in the video description below. So, on Yuliia's body, forensic experts found 3 stab wounds, 2 in the chest and 1 in the neck. The girl died literally within a few minutes due to severe internal and external bleeding, which was caused by one of the blows that struck her heart and left lung. Yuliia's body was burned after she died. A burnt sheet was also found at the crime scene on which the corpse was lying. In addition, a broken knife blade with traces of blood, its blood-stained handle, an empty oil bottle, a pack of matches, a phone, and a backpack were found. As Yuliia's guardian said, he last saw her on January 6th at about 8:30 in the morning. They discussed visiting relatives, which they'd planned the day before. Then the man went to work, that's all. After leaving the building, he met Anya, also a pseudonym, who claimed to be Yuliia's friend. She said she would wait for her here. The man simply said that the girl was at home and went on his way. Later, he would say that he saw Anya for the first time, although according to his testimony, he and Yuliia had a rather close and trusting relationship, so she probably should have told him about her friend. Only a few hours passed after that meeting, and Yuliia's guardian received a call from law enforcement officers who asked him to come for body identification. After seeing the burned body, he confirmed that it was Yuliia. The man also told the police that he had no idea who could have done this to the girl. According to his testimony, Yuliia had no conflicts with anyone, and she had no problems at school. The law enforcement officers who started investigating the case reviewed the local surveillance cameras. In one recording, Yuliia and Anya were seen that morning with a backpack and bedsheet, later found near the body, walking toward the river before leaving camera view. Only 24 minutes later, Anya returns. However, Yuliia is no longer with her, and she is no longer alive either. Suspecting the girl might be involved in her friend's death, the police decided to learn more about the person who was last seen with the victim, so they began searching for her. Later, law enforcement learned that Anya, like Yuliia, was a student at Izmail Gymnasium number 8. The girl studied in parallel classes. As Anya's mother said, her daughter's father had died a long time ago. For 9 years now, the girl had been raised by her mother and stepfather. The woman said her daughter was always calm, never aggressive, an average student, and had been bullied by classmates since 1st grade. She saw the school psychologist multiple times because of it. She became very withdrawn and considered herself unattractive. She was indeed friends with Yuliia, but she planned to end this friendship because her friend was threatening Anya. She blackmailed her, threatening to expose unpleasant facts about Anya at school. Anya's mother also admitted the girls sometimes drank alcohol together. In addition, the woman noted that Yuliia always looked very untidy and often had bruises. But, despite this, law enforcement officers found out that the victim herself never complained about being beaten or anything like that. Only a few hours after the police discovered Yuliia's body, they managed to find Anya. At 6:30, they found her on the other side of the city.
We promptly detained a 14-year-old resident of Izmail on suspicion of murdering her friend.
Anya did not deny her guilt. When she saw the police officers, she immediately confessed to what she had done and even agreed to share the circumstances of the gruesome murder. According to the detainee, on the eve of the crime, on January 5, 2024, Yuliia came to visit Anya and suggested they have a drink. The girls invited a few more friends to join their company. They spent time together until 8 o'clock, after which they parted ways. When all the guests had left the apartment, Anya noticed that someone had taken her alcohol. Since Yuliia, according to her friend, had repeatedly stolen from her before, taking money, alcohol, and collectible coins, Anya quickly concluded that Yuliia was the one responsible for the theft this time as well. Besides being angry that her friend was stealing her personal belongings, there were other reasons why Anya, let's say, didn't really like Yuliia. The girl confirmed her mother's claim that her friend blackmailed, set her up, and constantly manipulated her. The theft on January 5th was the last straw, and Anya decided to settle the score with her friend. For all the offenses, so to speak. How? By taking her life, a plan quickly formed in the girl's mind. She went to the kitchen, took a knife, a bottle of sunflower oil, a knife sharpener, matches, and put all of it into her backpack. Afterwards, she climbed out her window and ran to an abandoned apartment, spending the night there. In the morning, she came to Yuliia's house and waited at the playground. There, she met her guardian. When Yuliia left the house, Anya asked her to take a blanket and go for a walk, saying that she had prepared a surprise for her friend. She would definitely like it. They walked around the city for a bit. At some point, they were caught on a surveillance camera, which I remind you helped quickly find the suspect. Then the friends went to the Danube. As Anya notes, this happened around 9 or 10 in the morning. The girl couldn't remember exactly, since she wasn't keeping track of the time. And then Anya suggested that Yuliia lie down on the sheet, blindfold herself with a scarf that had been prepared in advance, and count to 3. Anya also asked Yuliia to unzip her jacket. She explained this by saying that she wanted to see her friend's heart beating in anticipation of the surprise. So without suspecting anything, Yuliia fulfilled all the conditions. As soon as she, blindfolded, found herself on the sheet, Anya began to hit her. First, she hit her in the heart. Another blow landed on the left side of her chest. At that moment, the knife blade broke. Then Anya grabbed it and delivered the final blow to Yuliia's neck, who died on the spot. When Anya realized that her friend was dead, she took some oil, poured it over the body and set it on fire, trying to hide her crime this way. The girl also threw the blade and the handle of the broken murder weapon into the fire. After making sure that the body was burning, the killer left the crime scene. That's all. During the investigative experiment, law enforcement officers managed to establish that the whole process took the girl no more than 5 or 6 minutes. Everything happened very quickly. After Anya dealt with Yuliia, she walked around the city, met with acquaintances, and was detained by police officers in the evening. In addition to the fact that the girl confessed to the crime herself, law enforcement officers found enough evidence that fully confirmed her guilt. So Anya was sent to a detention center, temporary holding. Now she was awaiting trial.
With sufficient evidence, prosecutors from the Ismail District Prosecutor's Office informed the underage suspect of suspicion of murder, that is, the intentional unlawful causing of another person's death. This crime is classified under Part 1 of Article 115 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine and is punishable by imprisonment for a term of 7 to 15 years. At present, the suspect is being held in a temporary detention facility. The prosecution will petition for her to be remanded in custody as a preventive measure.
On February 20th, a little more than a month after Anya's arrest, the results of the examination became known, according to which she does not suffer from any mental illnesses. At the time, she was not emotionally disturbed and fully aware and in control of her actions. It was her choice. At the hearing, the girl showed remorse for the crime. She said that she deeply regrets what she did and understands that Yuliia did not deserve to die. Anya also said she doesn't fully understand what drove her to commit the murder. On November 6, 2024, the girl heard her sentence. The court found her guilty, but took into account that Anya is a minor. She had not previously been held criminally responsible, confessed to the crime herself, and also had a good reputation from teachers and acquaintances. Considering all circumstances, the girl was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Well, that's the end of the first case, but this isn't the end of the video.
He kills mercilessly, taking victims to a deserted field. He intentionally hits with a bat, causing fatal injuries. There was no face left. There was simply nothing there. No nose, no eyes. The burial will be in a closed coffin.
In April 2024, near the village of Nabutiv in the Cherkasy region, law enforcement officers found the mutilated body of 17-year-old Vadym Redko. During the investigation, it was revealed that the main suspect in the case had already been involved in a horrific death before. On April 3, 2024, Valentina Radko, returning home from work, met her son Vadym, who was heading to a local bar with his close friend Alexander. The young man promised his mother that he would just take a short walk and return home soon.
But that was the last time the mother saw her son on the evening of April 3rd, near their house. He was about to go for a walk with his friend.
My child left at 9:45 in the evening. I was just coming back from work. I rode up on my bicycle. He came out with his friend and said, "Mom, I won't be long." He was working part-time. He was studying and working part-time. "I won't be long. I have work tomorrow." He said, "We're just going for a walk and, well, I won't be long."
That was the last time Valentina saw her son alive. 2 years before these events, the Radko family was forced to leave their native Kramatorsk because of the war and moved to the village of Nabutiv. Soon after that, Serhiy, Vadym's father, joined the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. Valentina found a job and Vadym studied at college, majoring in cybersecurity and information protection. And by the way, he combined this with a part-time job at a sawmill. According to his mother, she never excessively controlled her son. However, she tried to monitor who Vadym was with, where, and how. So, when on April 3rd, 2024, the boy didn't come home after 11 in the evening, Valentina got worried and started calling him.
My child didn't even answer the call. The first, second, third time I called his friend. He didn't answer the phone either.
I called again the friend he went out with.
They were very close friends. They started hanging out at our place, then went out together. Maybe he picked him up. They left the yard together.
On a later call, Vadym's friend Alexander finally answered. First, he claimed his friend wasn't answering because he left his phone to use the bathroom. Then he said Vadym was outside. He later said he didn't know where his friend was since they'd been hanging out separately for some time. And in the end, he said that he left the group, went home, and had no idea where Valentina's son could have gone. The woman found the boy's voice and constantly changing stories very suspicious. She felt that she was being deceived. While communicating with Vadym's friend, the mother also kept trying to call her son directly.
I keep texting and calling my child, who's almost 18, but hesitate to go look for him. When I see a mother rush over because her son didn't answer twice, I think, now I understand that I should have run.
All night, the worried woman couldn't find peace. Around 3 in the morning, her son's phone died from constant calls. The woman could hardly wait for morning and left at 6 to find Vadym. First, Valentina talked to the local youth, and they told her that the boy wasn't at the bar at all yesterday, no one saw him. Only then did Alexander admit to his friend's mother where Vadym had gone the night he vanished. The boy said that instead of going to the bar, they visited 18-year-old Andriy Honchar, who worked with the missing person. The story alarmed Valentina. Vadym's parents forbade him from talking to Andriy due to troubling rumors about him in the village. The potter was allegedly involved in the deaths of 4 local residents, and together with his friends, he repeatedly forced girls into his house. So, after learning the new information, Valentina went to Andriy Honchar's house, but he wasn't there. The boy's sister, also Valentina, told their mother that her son had indeed visited them yesterday. Andriy argued with him, but the reason is unclear. However, the boys made up afterward, and after 11 o'clock, Vadym simply went home. That's all. Then, realizing that she wouldn't be able to figure out where her son had disappeared on her own, Valentina called the local police officer. He checked all possible locations for the missing person and questioned local residents. However, this did not yield any results, so in the end, Valentina called 102. The search for the missing boy began immediately. According to Valentina, her son did not drink alcohol and did not get into any serious conflicts with anyone. And if things ever came to arguments, Vadym would resolve them with words, not fists. Still, he could defend himself since he boxed in Kramatorsk and was tall and strong. That's why Valentina hoped her son would be found alive. However, the news that the woman later heard turned out to be disappointing.
I remember there were a lot of cars, they were looking for my child, people gathered, well, as I understand, law enforcement officers. Then they suddenly left somewhere. Maybe there was some message, I don't know. I can't recall the exact time, but around 6 or 7 in the evening, they told me my child was gone. I remember I even asked, please call. Ask if maybe they can save him, maybe take him to intensive care. I asked, please call. They said no. I didn't think it would be like this. It's not just murder, it's like beating a child to death.
Vadym became the victim of an extremely brutal murder. That same day, law enforcement officers detained 2 of his co-workers, 18-year-old Andriy Honchar, whom the victim visited on the day he disappeared, and 20-year-old Bohdan Yashchenko. According to the investigation, on the day of the tragedy, all 3 young men were drinking alcohol. A conflict broke out between them, during which Andriy and Bohdan beat Vadym and then took him to a field where they inflicted injuries incompatible with life. Then they buried the body and left the crime scene. A few words about the suspects. It is known that Andriy Honchar came from a disadvantaged family. Since 2020, his family had been registered with social services. His parents abused alcohol, leading to repeated removal of him and his 15-year-old sister from the family. The children were later reunited with their parents. According to his sister, Bohdan Yashchenko feared Andriy and obeyed all his instructions. The woman is certain her brother is guilty, but believes Andriy persuaded Bohdan to commit the murder. The night of the tragedy at Andriy's house included Andriy, his father, his sister Valentina, Bohdan, Bohdan's girlfriend Valeria, Vadym, and Vadym's friend Alexander. As Valeria says, that evening Andriy called Vadym and invited him over. The guy came together with Sashko. Soon after that, Andriy and Bohdan went out for a smoke, and when they came back, Bohdan hit Vadym. He had no time to react, and no one understood what was happening. It all began instantly. Within seconds, Andriy rushed in, sat on top of Vadym, and started beating him. This went on for about 20 minutes. The victim begged his attackers to let him go. At that time, the girls were kicked out of the room. Later, Vadym. The lights went out, that's how it was. Later, Vadym was taken outside. The beaten boy managed to break free and tried to escape, but Andriy caught up with him and continued the beating. After that, Valeria hid in the house and claims that she doesn't remember anything that happened next at all. She doesn't really remember what Alexander was doing during the beating. He apparently just watched, then disappeared. According to the girl, she didn't call for help because she was afraid of becoming the next victim. However, at the same time, the girl contradicts herself because she says that she thought the fight wasn't serious and was sure that it wouldn't have any tragic consequences. Alexander's version is a bit different from the story that Valeria told. The guy claims that after Vadym started getting beaten up, the girls took Sashko outside. Later, Bohdan came out and threatened the guy, saying he would kill him if he told anyone about what he had seen. That's why he lied to Vadym's mother when she called him. Andriy's father, who was home at the time, reportedly did not participate. He was in another room and didn't hear anything due to the loud music where Vadym was beaten. In addition, Andriy's mother said that the father was actually afraid of his son and never went into his room. However, there is other testimony. According to them, the man was well aware of what was happening in his house, but decided not to interfere and later even helped to cover up the traces of the crime. Why a conflict arose between the suspects and the victim is not exactly known. Perhaps the reason could have been that Vadym had a brief relationship with Valentina, Andriy's sister. However, as is known, a few weeks before the tragedy they broke up and the girl had already found herself a new boyfriend. According to another version, the murder happened because of the house. The sawmill owner, who employed the victim and suspects, rented it to Valeria and Bohdan. 1 week before the tragedy, they were evicted for messiness and drinking. Instead, the owner allowed Vadym to live there. Because of this, Bohdan and his girlfriend decided that Vadym had complained about them on purpose, just to get the house for himself. That's what Andriy's sister Valentina says. She claims Vadym was invited that night to discuss the ill-fated house. The meeting was initiated by Valeria and Bohdan. As the girls said, after the beating, Vadym was taken outside. Her brother, together with Bohdan, took a bat and a rope with them. They put it around the victim's neck. Then Bohdan grabbed the rope and led the guy like he was on a leash. When Valentina asked what they planned to do next, the guys replied that they just wanted to scare Vadym and nothing more. Valentina suggested calling the cops, but Valeria talked her friend out of it, arguing that they could become the guys' next victims. Outside, the suspects forced Vadym to drink water from a puddle. After that, the guys ordered Valeria and Valentina to return to the house. Henri and Bodin came home 90 minutes later with blood on their faces and hands. At first, Valentina was afraid to ask the guys what had happened there. A few hours later, when Valeria and Bodin left the house, the girl finally asked her brother what had happened to Vadym. Henri replied that they had killed him, and before that, they forced him to dig his own grave. Bodin supposedly struck him 4 times on the head. After hearing this story, Valentina wanted to call the police, but her brother simply took her phone away. In addition, the girl said that Henri forced her and her father to clean Vadym's blood from the room. They said that together with Valeria, they burned the victim's phone case, and in the morning she broke and threw away the phone itself. Despite numerous testimonies, the investigation is ongoing. Bodin and Henri are in custody and awaiting trial. They deny their involvement in the murder and refuse to cooperate. They simply remain silent. However, a fragment of a phone conversation between Valeria and her brother appeared online, in which Henri claims that Bodin is putting all the blame for the crime on him.
The thing is, Bodin and Lera are starting to put all the blame on me. I don't know. Bodin fractured his skull, and that's it. I don't know what to do.
How did you learn they were saying this about you together?
When we were given our fingerprints, he was saying all this stuff about me.
One way or another, if the boys are found guilty, Bodin and Henri face up to 15 years in prison or even life imprisonment. However, local residents fear that Vadym's killers will escape justice. After all, this is not the first time Henri has been involved in someone's death and remained unpunished. A year before Vadym was murdered, the brutally beaten body of 33-year-old Mykola Shpiliovi was found in Henri's yard. The man spent 5 days in the hospital and then officially died of hypothermia. He was found in the morning. The night before, Henri had badly beaten Mykola.
He was in such a condition that he couldn't walk. His head was fractured. The first day he was in intensive care. Can you tell me about the condition of Mykola Shpilovi? The doctor looks at me and asks, "Want honesty?" I say yes. She replies, "Come in." That was one of my mistakes, that I crossed the threshold and I saw him. And she tells me, "I can't say if he'll make it till morning, if he'll make it 5 hours, or if he'll make it 5 minutes. She says, "I need to take him for a computed tomography scan of his brain to see what's going on with his head." And she says, "am scared to take him out since he had 2 cardiac arrests and was hospitalized in a coma." What was there? There wasn't a single spot left unharmed.
At that time, Henri was a minor. Because of this, he was placed under house arrest, which cannot last more than 6 months. The case was opened not for murder, but for causing bodily harm, as Mykola allegedly died from hypothermia according to the official version. They didn't consider that after the beating, he couldn't walk and was nearly unconscious. Soon after, Henri was declared legally insane due to a mental illness and registered at a psychiatric hospital. Mykola Shpiliovi's parents claimed that if their son's death had been properly investigated and the guilty party had been justly punished, Vadym would still be alive now. It's worth noting that Henri's late grandfather was a criminal authority. It is known that as of June 2024, Henri was in a good cell with a plasma television and the ability to use a mobile phone, so he might even see this video. Who knows? Of course, there seems to be a certain connection between these facts. So now, we can only hope that connections with the criminal world will not allow Henri to avoid punishment for his crimes again. Well, dear ones, thank you for watching the video until the very end. Take care of yourselves, your family, and your loved ones. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.